My name is Trevor Lecca, and I am Dubsado's product education lead. And today's webinar is called Delegate or Automate, handoffs that help you scale. Really, what today's webinar is talking about is the fact that most small businesses have a lot of work that you need to get done. And of course, there's a variety of ways that you can tackle your work for the week, right? Two of those options being you can delegate or you can automate things. Now, in today's day and age, you have a ton of automation options, Dubsado included, right? You can automate so many of the different items that you need to take care of on a day-to-day basis. But if you have a team, or maybe you're considering growing a team, you might also consider the delegation option, right? What items are better for the human touch to be applied to? And today's webinar is all about making that decision effectively and how to actually improve your workflow by making a conscious choice between delegating something or automating something. Our guest today, Alina Scarcella, is a fantastic resource on this topic, and she's going to come on and give us a ton of tips and tricks about how to make that decision effectively. She's a Dubsado certified specialist and an online business strategist with a knack for making things run smoother, faster, and with way less stress. She spent years behind the scenes of dozens of businesses across many industries, untangling messy systems, automating the tedious stuff, and helping entrepreneurs turn big ideas into reality. So I cannot wait to hear what she has to say. Now let's go ahead and bring her on. All right. Give it just a second. There we go. Hey, Alina, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going, Trevor?
Thank you so much for being here today.
Of course, I'm excited.
I'm really excited as well. All right. I'm going to go ahead and gather your way in just a second here, but anybody who's here in attendance, if you have questions while Alina is presenting, go ahead and throw those right there in the chat or the Q&A. Either is totally fine. If it's a quick question, I'll go ahead and answer it while she's speaking. If not, I'll hold it off to the end when we get to the Q&A section. Okay? Cool.
Sounds good.
All right.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right, here we are. Okay, so Trevor gave me an intro. I'll just quickly introduce myself before we get into all the nitty gritty, but my name's Alina. And today we're basically going to talk about how to hand things off so you're not constantly getting buried in admin, paper shuffling, and all those good things that we've all come to know and love as business owners that might be sucking away time from where we need to be spending it. So, basically, a little bit of background on me. I kind of stumbled into business about 10 years ago. I was fresh out of college. I had multiple part-time jobs. Had a lot more energy than I do now, but basically, I was working at a bunch of mom and pop shops around the town that I live in, Orlando, Florida. And eventually, I kind of distilled down that really my job description grew at every single position that I had. I got hired for one thing, but ended up doing a million other things. So, within about 6 to 7 months of saying, I'm going to have my own contract and, set my own rates for this kind of stuff, I became a full-blown online business. As a generalist virtual assistant. So I've really been on both sides of the kind of support dynamic. I've been a super general virtual assistant and online business manager, kind of tackling whatever solo entrepreneurs need me to tackle, but I've also hired my own team. So I feel like I've seen it all. So today I'm specialized in Dubsado and operational excellence, and really making sure that entrepreneurs are leaning as hard as they possibly can into systems and processes that really work for their business and for their brand, and really creating like those bespoke experiences with the least amount of hands-on time as possible. So I currently offer Dubsado setups, of course, as a specialist since 2002. I've been setting up all kinds of things in Dubsado for all sorts of different industries. I do audits and action plans for folks who have been using Dubsado for a while, but know that they're not using it to its fullest capacity, or they have questions, or they cobble together a workflow that they just need a second set of eyes on to make sure everything is being used the way it should be. And then coming soon, I'm going to be offering some DIY toolkits that are industry specific for folks who may not want to work with a specialist right away, are interested in learning and kind of doing it themselves, but just want to skip all the Google rabbit holes and digging through the archives of help articles and want that straight path to exactly the workflow that they need to set up. So my clients who land on my desk every day know that they can't do all the things by themselves anymore. and they're ready to lean on some of that support, whether it be software or actual human hands. And deciding, what route to go and what they really want to invest in is a lot of the conversations that I have. So my goal today is to help you get back to growing your company as the CEO. Even if it's just you right now, you're still the CEO. And there's a few ways that you can get things off your plate and prevent your time from being weighed down in that admin, in that paper shuffling, and those repeatable processes so that you can get back to the revenue generating activities and the work that you actually enjoy and why you started your business. All right. So, in my opinion, there's really three keys to scaling a business. Nothing happens overnight, but being aware of these three areas and putting kind of equal focus in each, I think I've learned, makes a huge impact. So, of course, is you. You're the CEO, you're the visionary and expert behind your brand. So your time really is best spent in the driver's seat of your business and not in the mechanic's garage picking apart every single piece. We all know that admin hamster wheel. Things just have to get done in order for a business to be compliant, of course, and legit and legally buttoned up. But there's also just admin stuff that has to happen on a routine, repeatable basis. And if you don't step off that hamster wheel as you're growing and progressing, it's going to be a very slow growth, which is fine. But a lot of the people that land on my desk say, "Why didn't I do this sooner?" And that's just one of those lessons that everybody has to learn in starting a business. Um, so on the next slide, we'll talk more about how that works and what needs to happen there. But we all know that hamster wheel and you coming to the realization midday, like, wow, I just spent 2 hours on that when I could have been doing something else that's more fun and lights me up more. Okay, and then the other two are your support, your systems and automations. So a lot of budding business owners and a lot of the folks who of course come to me for Dubsado setups and even project management setups and that type of stuff are really nervous to really fully lean in because they think that it might sound robotic or impersonal. We all know those autoresponders that are just really like, I know I'm not talking to a person and I hate this. I wish someone would just answer the phone, right? So we know that's not the case because Dubsado exists. And it really makes it look bespoke to every single client, even though it's a template. Or it's a template that's been tweaked a little bit. So intentionally built systems and automations are some of the most branded assets too that you can possibly have. You really have control over exactly how this comes across to the prospective client or the active client. And it can really be a huge asset to your business that you build once and then it runs itself. It also makes everything easier just on both sides. It makes it easy for a client to submit their proposal, to get their contract signed, to pay their invoice. I mean, that whole process with Dubsado is hands off once that proposal gets sent. So just an example of how you can really lean on that, where otherwise it would take you hours every single time, even though it's this pretty much the same. Then there's outsource support. So that's human beings getting in your business and hopefully giving you a little bit of relief and time back in your day. So, along to making the transition on relying on automations and software, sometimes it's difficult for us to let go of some pieces of our business that really do need that human touch. There's a lot more margin for error and things not to be done or communicated the exact way that you would if you were handling it, but there's trade-offs that we need to make. And there's people that might even improve that process, right? But there's always ways to standardize things and at least have something down on paper so that your team is set up to deliver the best possible result on repeat. And we'll chat through some of that today as well. So these three pieces, in my opinion, need to be working kind of in tandem and as efficiently as possible in order to move your business forward positively on a consistent basis. All right. So first we'll talk about your role as the CEO of your business. So we have two kind of areas here, the back end focus and your front end focus. So you'll see it looks kind of tidy in here right now, but there's a lot going on in this room at all times. So the back end, I like to really keep as clean as possible because it gives me the best mental clarity to make decisions, to move my business forward, and to really have a grasp and not feel like I'm losing the grasp and it's just chaos all the time. Because it's pretty easy, as we all probably know, to fall into that. So on the back end, your time is really best spent on strategizing so your clients get the best possible results. You're really good at what you do, you know how this works, and you need to be able to deliver the best quality service. That way you can charge a premium and really move your business forward. Then we have continuous education. So that's educating yourself on the latest trends, what's out there, what basically staying on top of your own industry. It's also educating your team. So if you bring any outside support on, any contractors, you need to educate them on what they need to know to deliver the best results for you. And educating your community. I find a ton of value in doing even things like this, and just having calls with people that I know that I could help, even if I'm not getting a direct, bottom line return on that. It's still super valuable to be someone that others in your community can rely on for the best strategy and the best results. And then lastly, critical decision making. So you really are the top of this pyramid. Even if it feels like just you right now, the pyramid will grow and you will always be the top. So you need to make decisions and have space to make decisions to keep your business healthy, continuously growing, and evolving to fill your community's needs. So on the front end, this is more client facing, more public, but building relationships and sharing your expertise is something that you're going to be doing a lot of. So I'm not talking about just straight up prospecting, which of course you're going to do, but simply networking and finding communities where you can contribute and help others will position you as a thought leader and could lead to opportunities beyond just building clients. So partnerships and special features and just ways to get more eyes into your business, which means more growth for you and more people that you can help. Secondly, we have operations oversight. I mean, somebody has to be the manager, and it takes intentional time to plan your own schedule, not to mention the schedules of your eventual team, and creating your day in a way that makes sense for you to be able to oversee kind of everything and take a step back and have a big picture. So there should also be intentional time set aside for your bigger picture business goals and to really sit down and check in on that, your financial health of your business and the sustainability and planning for the future, of course. And lastly, doing the work that only you can do. So your zone of genius. If you're a website designer, this means you should be spending more time designing instead of chasing down things like late payments or follow-ups. If you're a coach, you should be spending time on coaching calls face to face with people instead of spending half a day creating a proposal or an onboarding thing that just needs to happen to get them signed up, even though you sold that same package a million times. Or if you're a photographer, your camera should be in your hand more than your computer mouse. So your zone of genius is where really you should be spending the time. And to be honest, I think that's where most entrepreneurs are most happy doing the work that really only they can do and what's that main pillar of their business. So how do we stay in the CEO chair and not get bogged down by all the little pieces that are constantly moving around us? First, with everybody that I work with, and I recommend doing this probably on at least a quarterly basis, if not more frequently, is sit down and think about what you're doing every single day. So really taking a detailed inventory of all of your business tasks, and it's hard to conceptualize because everyone, and it doesn't matter what point in your business journey you're in, you're probably switching gears 1,000 times a day. So to really consciously observe the way that you're spending your time can really inform what the best kind of support you might be interested in investing in next. That's kind of an answer that I'll give you. So yeah, from that list and that whole kind of day in a glance, you can identify why did this one thing take so long? This should have been an easy thing, but it wasn't. So then you can really pinpoint, your pain points. And then you choose to solve this pain point. Is it a piece of tech, or is it, a person that I can communicate with every single day, or, when needed, um, to get this thing off my plate so that you can get back to what you do best. Okay. So I want to go through kind of two approaches. So, and these can happen, sort of decision can happen at any point. So here I'm saying hiring first, but this could be, after you've done a bunch of systems, you think hiring might be good, but there's always a fork in the road where you're like, okay, do I automate something like this, or is that possible, or should I hire someone in? And so I kind of wanted to go through both scenarios and what that looks like, in my experience, just to help you better like decide, is this a delegation to a person, or am I delegating it to a software that's mostly automated, if not completely? So the path of hiring first definitely starts with choosing what to outsource or delegate. So again, both of these paths are going to start with writing down what's actually going on day to day, and what you're planning for in the future and what you might need. So it really requires taking a full inventory of everything that happens in your business, and where your investment is going to, where you're going to get the most bang for your buck, basically. And then secondly, you need to decide what that budget can really get you. So are you looking for more soft skills like customer service, or being on the phone for whatever reason, or hard skills like, are you looking for someone to implement SEO or do something like a Dubsado setup where it's really kind of set in stone, but they need, it just depends. So that's kind of a consideration on how you're looking to hire. Are the tasks that you want to outsource expensive or not? Are they a one-time setup fee, or are they like recurring? Specialists typically have their own packages, while virtual assistants and online business managers have a monthly retainer where you can really lay things that are just coming up on them as they come up. So just something to consider. Are those tasks, a one and done with some support if you need it later on, or are they someone who's in your business all the time? And for this budget setting, exercise here, I have a resource that I'll share at the end here that has a handy little calculator that gives some examples of some tasks, and has a calculator on like hours and what you can afford. So feel free to go ahead and download that. We'll talk about it later. All right, then you need to actually find the person who's going to do that stuff, right? So again, specialist versus generalist. Are you going to reach out to your network to find someone that can check some boxes if you give them clear direction? Or are you looking for someone to strategize with you and really give you new ideas and things that you're not interested in, or don't want to like conceptualize yourself? Or are you looking to hire an actual employee? Because that's a whole different ballgame too. So deciding kind of where you're going to find this person and what would make you feel the most comfortable in taking them on and taking that leap, to go ahead and bring them on and invite them into your business, which is a very dear thing to most of us that we don't share the behind the scenes with a whole lot. All right. Number 4 here is onboarding properly. So, you need to get the paperwork in order for you both to have a protected partnership that has built-in boundaries. I can't tell you, when I first started as a virtual assistant, I got asked to do a lot of very random things. I would start with them for their social media and scheduling and this and that. And then next thing I know, 2 months down the line, I'm ordering pizza for their family at night and doing things that I shouldn't have been doing. Granted, halfway through that was COVID, so I was home anyways and happy to, but um, yeah, you definitely want to build in some very well thought out considerations into your contract and all of that good stuff. Which again, I have resources for that you can definitely skip the hard part and just pull those. But beyond that, they need to know exactly what they're doing and what your expectations are. So getting that really clear is a process that should be taken seriously, and should take the time to do that because you're going to save yourself a lot of billable hours if you set them up to do the things that they need to be doing on time and the way that you want them done. And then training and releasing. So exactly what I was just talking about. What's the process for getting them to a point where you trust that they're going to get what you're asking for done on time and correctly. For this, I love using a program called Loom. That's pretty popular that does like a screen recording and I can just talk through what I'm doing. So if I'm ever getting ready to hire, or even if I just set something up for myself and no one else is going to see it, I like to do this and talk through start to finish the process of like one of these tasks, even just for myself, so that I have it documented somewhere in case I forget or in case I want to bring someone in to take over that task. Um, so just documenting like exactly the process and explaining why it, the whole thought process behind it is extremely valuable in setting a standard. There's also another one that I keep getting ads for called Scribe AI. And its claim is that it does kind of the same thing as Loom, except it also then translates into a step-by-step like written guide. So I would definitely check that out if I were hiring anytime soon. um, but basically standardizing as much as you possibly can. Of course, we know, and Dubsado was built for customization, but templatizing and kind of getting the most ideal process down on paper first is always best. All right. So let's talk about doing systems first instead, or going a systems route rather than hiring to kind of accomplish one thing. So basically the same start here. You have to just take inventory and do that hard thing of tracking your day, even though, most of us after doing that realize like my day is more chaotic than I thought it was. I have my hands in a lot more things than I thought. But that's where we grow, right? So identifying what can be systematized or partially systematized and pinpointing like categories for things. And, this is one task and here's a start line and here's a finish line for it. So choosing what you can build more structure around and what can be standardized is important. So in this way, we can start with a slightly different lens because it's not going to be a person who can adapt as easily. We're working within the parameters of a software. So slightly different thought process, but still very valuable. The second is research, basically. So finding the technology to help you with the most time and energy consuming tasks. Of course, for something like client experience and paper shuffling, we've got Dubsado on our side. So we've got a lot of that automated. Even some things might need to click the approve button, but just as an example for both of those things, onboarding, offboarding, we've got Dubsado. But other areas of your business like marketing, we can start create newsletter templates. We can sign up for a social media scheduling platform that can push all of your posts for the entire week if you just load them up once, sit down one time and get them all in there. So those sort of things you can find solutions for, but it does take a little bit of time to research. So third here is creating your templates. So investing time into getting your ideal materials down on paper and then translating them into your system. So I personally, with all of my specifically Dubsado setups, like to get the entire client journey on paper from start to finish, literally in a 1, 2, 3 kind of list. This is what happens. And these things happen because of the way the client is interacting, and these emails get sent here and that sort of thing. I like to literally just write it in black and white. That way, once I get into my software, I can then translate it and know the context that each piece fits into. And of course, not all of this is going to be exact by the time it gets to the client, but that's the beauty of a system like Dubsado. You really can get as much as possible on an ideal day with an ideal client down on paper, and then spend minutes tweaking versus hours putting this together from scratch. Or, of course, you could invest in a specialist to take that whole thing off your hands. Dubsado specialist program would not exist if there wasn't strategy behind these setups. But if that's not your zone of genius and you're more interested in spending your time and it's more valuable to you to be doing different things, to generate income for your business and be able to reinvest in stuff like this, then it's definitely worth considering handing some of these setups off. Because again, they're pretty much one and done, and you're getting a whole lesson in how the system works and how what your software is capable of after the fact. So definitely consideration there. And you really just have to think like, how much am I paying myself to set this up by myself, to get all this working, do all the testing, do all the trial and error, learn about the right way versus wrong way to do this, and all that stuff. Or would I rather be spending my time doing what actually kind of lights me up? And then lastly, your documents and standard operating procedures. So I always like whenever anybody implements a new software or new kind of process, get it on paper. Even just for yourself, but really for like any future team members that you think you might bring in at any point. All right. So with that, we can look at pros and cons of sort of each path here. So for hiring, I think it's super valuable to have a fresh perspective on your business, especially if you're not hiring right up front, like right when you're starting your business. Um, I think, we can all use a little bit of perspective, and sometimes we get a little too close and too in the weeds of our own business um, to really be able to put things into a way like a verbally that makes sense to other people who might not know what they don't know. So you're the expert in what you do, but without other people kind of learning from you constantly, it's difficult to step back and say like, okay, these people don't know what they don't know, but I'm going to tell them in a way that's accessible. So you'll also have versatility and adaptability in the kind of support that you're getting, especially if you hire beautifully and have a great right hand that's ready to jump into anything that you're ideating. If you hire a unicorn, they may be able to reach other parts of your business that you didn't think of before, or that wasn't relevant to when you were hiring them. And lastly, you'll be supporting another human being to make their living doing something that they love, which is just really fulfilling in itself. Some cons of hiring, and I don't want to say cons because everything is a learning process, but I've learned that really the preparation for any successful partnership has to be intentional and well thought out. I can't tell you the amount of times as a virtual assistant, I got passed to someone or got on a call with someone who reached out to me and they just said, I'm pulling my hair out. I know that I need you, but I don't know for what yet. Like, what can you do? How can you relieve me? I just need to get some things off my desk. Like, what can you pick up? Um, and that really put pressure on me because I hadn't run a full operation by myself yet. And I wasn't sure what they were really asking me for. And I myself would have felt more comfortable if they had come to me with clear cut tasks and expectations. And I think they would have felt more comfortable taking a chance on me too, right? Instead of me training myself on what's wrong with what's going on there. There's always a risk of having a nightmare hire that just drops the ball, which could be a setback and a learn the hard way moment. Um, I would hate for that to happen to anyone, but I've heard it happen a lot. If they're fantastic, they'll just handle things, which is a blessing while they're working with you. But if they leave, that could also cause headaches. If they're not used to and don't have the task of using something like Loom to document what they're doing, if it's something that they took the initiative to set up for you, right? Um, Human error, of course, is inevitable. We just can't get around it. But that's just something that comes with having people in your business and really trusting. So um, that's kind of my thoughts on hiring. But systems and automations have more of a concrete deliverable for you. So really your ideal process then is automated to run the way that you would handle it on your best day every day. That's the kind of goal with any kind of system setup. So you can integrate those surprise and delight moments everywhere you can along your client's journey. You only have to really think about it once, implement it once, and then it becomes a standard thing without, you having to lift a finger really at all. And that's invaluable. Um, Secondly, budgetarily, it's a much smarter way to get some of these things done. If you can automate it and systematize it, it's going to be more cost effective than having someone else do it on repeat anyways, right? I mean, even if you hire one of these higher level positions to handle what you can't automate, their hours won't be sucked into the paper shuffling and recreating things that really you should have templatized. Um, it really adds value on your team's bottom line. So tools like Dubsado are designed to grow with you. I consider them as living and breathing as a human team member. And once you have those foundations of your systems in place, that duplicate button will become your best friend. You really don't have to recreate the wheel with a service offering that's new, but only slightly different or slightly, ahead or below the one that you're currently offering. Um, so I think it's just way more efficient. Um, this means, yeah, less time reinventing the wheel and really makes developing new ways to work with clients more feasible and possible and less strenuous for you to dream up. So, some cons is really that it doesn't happen overnight and it does take a lot of thought, but it's pretty close. It's as close as you can get, really, to setting something up for your business that um, is not permanent, of course, but really has the capacity to grow with you again. Almost everyone who comes across my desk says, I don't know why I didn't get Dubsado earlier. I've been doing all of this manually for so long that I can't believe I could have just done this instead. So that's kind of my pros and cons list for both. And of course, the order in which you do these will always fluctuate. I mean, there's going to be times where a piece of technology is going to get the thing you're trying to get done better than hiring a team member will. And say and the other way around as well. So if you want to hire a strategist or somebody who really excels in one particular part of your business, that might be, the way to go too. So I just want to talk about some common pitfalls here, just so that while you're deciding these things, you're not falling into any of these traps that are very, very easy to get to. I know that from firsthand experience. So perfectionism paralysis, nothing is going to be perfect unless you're a multi-million dollar business who can afford a bespoke, exclusively developed software that is like the magic button for you. We have is accessible, right? So we can make a lot of things, especially like Dubsado, that's so customizable, work for what we need right now. Same thing with the team member. They might not be able to do everything you want them to do, but there has to be some wiggle room to where done is better than perfect. Budget hesitation. I know it's really hard to let go and to put that card information in and press send on something that you don't know that you can fully trust. But really, what you're doing by seeking support, whether it be a team member or a software, is that it's investing in your growth. Instead of just being another expense, something that you have to pay for. It really is going to move the needle in a direction where you have more time to make more and do more. Micromanagement, again, I think that this could really be avoided by having documentation, which is the next little card over. Getting your processes on paper before either implementing them into a software or handing them off to a person, I think could avoid a lot of miscommunicated expectations and not having things done exactly how you want them done. But hovering helps no one, and that probably is going to give you more stress than just doing it yourself, which is not the point. All right, so I have a whole page. I actually went a little crazy and created a whole page of resources that I have handy to help you guys really get this stuff down on paper and do that whole inventory taking to get you started. And this is where I would start here. I have that little workbook that's a structured container to really get some of this stuff on paper, decide what you can automate, what you can delegate, and what you can just toss if it's not serving your business or moving the needle forward. I have another resource on this page down here that I call the efficiency scorecard that is more about automation and where some gaps might be, where you can fill those using Dubsado and get some stuff set up. And then I do have like a full, bigger workbook that will really be a fast track to everything you need to know. And then if you decide to go ahead and delegate, I have horror stories from my own personal experience, contract considerations, checklist, the budget calculator, all that stuff is in there. So yeah, that's kind of my little spiel for today. And I hope that I was able to give you guys some considerations and yeah, just guide you on the path to really consider what your next move is going to be. All right.
Perfect. Thank you so much for all of that, Alina. That's fantastic.
No
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have some questions here. I have some questions that I noted down. And of course, if anybody's watching and you have questions while we're chatting, please feel free to continue to throw those there in the webinar chat, okay? But I was wondering, when you're going through that kind of matrix to figure out like what you're really doing every day, how specific are you getting with yourself? Is it one of those moments where you need to be brutally honest? Obviously, that probably would help, but what level of specificity do you recommend when you're filling out that chart?
Well, I think even choosing that you're going to do that, like take one day that looks really typical. You know, you might have a little bit of everything mixed in. A lot of people that I know have certain spaces on their calendar for things like discovery calls, and they have like part of their networking group, they'll attend like one of those. And then between that, they're doing actual client work or putting together onboarding stuff. So even just taking a look at the calendar
Yeah,
and seeing what looks heavy and what doesn't, and then even just thinking about like, did that actually take the amount of time that I allotted it to take?
yeah,
But then also just being, conscious and even just keeping a little checklist, like, or an open notebook on the side of your computer on a normal office day and tallying the amount of times that you return to your inbox to check nothing
something.
particular, but
Yeah, yeah,
something that might be in there. I mean, I can't tell you the amount of times I spent what was supposed to be 2 minutes looking at my inbox and I get sucked into writing a novel of an email.
definitely.
So
Yeah.
really, it's more an exercise in just being conscious. And however deep you want to go on that is kind of up to you. But having an accurate picture of where your time is actually spent makes
Mhm.
sense. I also used a system called Toggle. I think it's spelled Toggl,
Okay.
where I just downloaded like a little widget and it was like a play and pause button where I could type in just a very basic time tracker. And I
Okay.
typed in exactly what I did.
And
Yeah.
it worked really well for you.
Yeah, yeah. But at the end of the day, I had 40 entries and I was like, I was supposed to do two things today. Like, what?
I think that that piece right there is exactly what I think a lot of small businesses would benefit from, or you're just human, right? Because it's so human to be like, no, that doesn't really count. Like it's such a tiny little thing, but it all adds up. And that's really what I'm talking about is like asking, I think, thinking to yourself, okay, how specific do I need to be? It's like, no, try and do it as much as possible because, like you said, before you realize that you're at 40 things, which is an incredible number of items when you realize that you were trying to only accomplish two things. So that's
Yeah.
really what I
I
think.
mean, I'll do you one better. You could even use the Dubsado. You make a project for yourself in
Use a
Dubsado,
time tracker. Yeah.
put an hourly rate in there for yourself and
Yeah.
see how much you're paying you should be paying yourself to do nonsense things.
Exactly. That was
So
something else that I was thinking as well that I didn't actually note down, but like the idea that, your time is valuable, right? And if you try to assign yourself some hourly rates, it can kind of put into perspective the kind of nonsense time that you spend doing random things.
totally.
And I mean, I'd be curious to hear your perspective on that. If that's a healthy way to think about it, obviously you'd be setting sort of an arbitrary amount of time value to your time, but that can be one way to think about it as well, right?
Yeah, I think it's just a perspective builder. And if you like doing that kind of stuff, great. That also like shifts, what's worth it and what's not. But
Totally.
I guarantee you, like for a lot of people who have started their own business, especially by themselves,
Mhm.
they've gotten bogged down by something that they dread spending time on that
Yeah,
really they know someone else can do this a lot faster and with a smile on their face that I just don't want to be doing.
exactly. Exactly right.
So
Yeah. Alicia, thank you for correcting that link there. I pasted in a link that took to the homepage, but if anybody's curious in the chat there, the link that Alicia pasted is the one that goes to the proper resource page. So thank you, Alicia. Apologies for that, folks. The other software that I mentioned or that I caught while you were speaking that I'm not completely aware of is Tango. The somebody in the chat, Abby, mentioned that they use Tango for building SOPs. Do you have any experience using Tango? Because I think this is kind of evolving into a nice conversation about really helpful little resources that folks can use to kind of accomplish some of these things. But do you have any experience with Tango? I'm just curious.
I have not heard of Tango, but I'm excited to check it out. Yeah, the only
Yeah.
other one that I've heard about and kind of used a little bit was Scribe
Okay.
A.
So
Um,
just to summarize for folks, we got Scribe for which is similar to Loom. We have Tango for SOPs, and we have Toggle, which is a time tracker. So if you're somebody who's looking for ways to kind of figure out your time and how you're spending it, these are all really great ways to do it. Cool.
yeah.
Okay. Then the last question that I had as well was, if somebody who might be watching who is wanting to save themselves time, whether it's automating or it's hiring a team member, but they're kind of looking at their budgeting and they're thinking, I can't really make any wiggle room right now. Do you have any last tips or tricks for somebody who is a little bit short on the capital, maybe to kind of expand what they're doing, but still wants to kind of cut down on some of these things?
I would look for resources, but be very aware of getting in that analysis paralysis stage where you're just lost in rabbit holes.
Totally.
I've been there. But um, I think really at almost any budgetary level, there is some level of support that you can get. And even there's groups that would jump at the opportunity to even just sit down for a virtual coffee. Like that's something that I'll never get rid of on my website is my virtual coffee link. Over 10 years, I've just refused to not do it because I love
Yeah,
it. And there's a lot of just satisfaction that other people will get in saving you from that waste of time. So just don't be afraid to reach out and say like I need help and I know that what I'm doing like could be better even,
sure.
not like I'm drowning and this is not good and I'm going to give up, but does anyone have some pointers for me because this I think could be less clunky or there's got to be a better way. So I think just finding people who are willing to just sit down for a little chat is great, but also then there's a lot of virtual assistants and people who can give you guidance on how you can work with them that are willing to do a very low retainer to just fill in a couple of extra hours per month. Um, so, it really just comes down to finding first thinking about what type of support you actually need, but then like what does that investment look like? And in the future, like what are you going to get back from that? And
Sure.
weighing the immediate relief that you're going to get versus like down the line when I want to do a way larger project that I have been dreaming up for however long, but it's going to take a while.
Yeah.
And, my time to build that capital up in order to reinvest it back, it's kind of a budget game. Um, but there are also a lot of resources out there
Yeah.
to at
Well,
least even if it's an hour back in your day, that's huge if you were to pay yourself, which is
especially,
a
yeah.
mindset, but
And if it's something you're doing all the time, that 1 hour chunk at a time will add up, right? So I think that's all fantastic advice. And even here in the chat, right, we have another recommendation for software. Erica was mentioning a software called Guide, which is video and written SOPs. I mean, these are all fantastic, ideas for folks to go ahead and use, and probably have free trials as well if you're somebody who's trying to ball on a budget, right? But I think the biggest thing that I'm also taking away from the last thing that you said was just I know that I personally struggle with this, but it's give yourself permission to ask for help, right? Like if you know that you're in a place where you can be doing things better and you're looking for, ways to improve, it's okay to, like you said, to reach out to groups like that you mentioned and ask for help or try to give yourself an upper hand in tackling these things. So that's really
yeah.
fantastic advice.
Yeah. I mean, especially in the online space, and most solo entrepreneurs are excited to answer questions. So,
Yeah. No, it's
yeah,
a really good community of folks out there who are all solopreneurs usually. It's I've seen a lot of really good compassion for folks, and I love that.
for sure.
Cool. All right, that's all the questions that I have, and I see. So, like I said, and the chat was just really helpful, kind of offering up these different softwares and stuff. But if anybody else has any questions while I kind of close out here, feel free to throw them in there. But otherwise, Alina, I really want to thank you for being here today, and this has been a really fantastic time. So, I'd love to have you back on again in the future. And anybody who's watching, we already mentioned it in the chat, but you will be receiving the recording as well as the slides shortly after this webinar is done, and you can always find the recording on YouTube as well. Cool. We got a question here for Haley. What was the calculator for
Oh,
finding pay numbers for delegation?
Yeah, so on the website link, the alinascarcella.com/Dubsado webinar, that outsourcing made easy workbook goes through everything you need. It has links to a Excel Google Sheet calculator that I made. Um, yeah, also links to other like tech tools that I love. It has a lot of things. So yeah, that's where you can find that.
I'm going to read through that link in the chat there. Let's make sure this is the
There
correct
we go.
one. It
Yeah.
is. Okay, great. Fantastic. Yeah, so anybody who is looking for that calculator, you can find it right there.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, cool. All right. Alina, thank you once again, and we'll catch you on the next one, okay?
Sounds good, Trevor.
All
Thanks so
right.
much.
Thanks. Bye.